As Franco Harris was beloved in Pittsburgh within the Steelers organization. He played there for 12 years. He was a Super Bowl champion time and time again. And this week, Franco Harris, we were remembering him and talking about that team because of his powerful role within the Immaculate Reception. The 50th anniversary is on Saturday. The Pittsburgh Steelers were going to retire his number on Saturday. Franco Harris has passed away, according to the Associated Press, at the age of 72. We all have memories of that game, of Franco Harris, his impact on the Steelers, the city, the organization. So a couple minutes on just what we remember about Franco Harris.
I think for everyone just turning on Good Morning Football, this news is jarring. Jamie, excellent job bringing it in just with such fresh eyes. 72 years old, and the Immaculate Reception was being celebrated this weekend, 50-year anniversary, and we lose Franco on Wednesday morning. We've had him on the show so many times. One of the all-time legends of the NFL, but also the college game at Penn State. We know his impact there. This play here, the Immaculate Reception, let me explain for everyone what this meant. This was the first playoff win ever by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right. They hadn't won a game from 1939 to 1971 in the postseason. It was their first game. Franco Harris caught the first touchdown pass ever for the Steelers in the postseason. It was on that play. And we were going to be celebrating Franco for the next 72 hours leading up to this amazing NFL Network game on Saturday night. It's almost eerie, but also poetic that we are celebrating the life of Franco Harris. The Steelers were planning on retiring his jersey and honoring 32 forever on Saturday night as well. I am shocked as I walk in here, but it's also a beautiful tribute that this game is going to be played Saturday night. The 50-year anniversary to the Immaculate Reception. An unbelievable, passing of the ships in the night. And,
no doubt.
And yet we're here to celebrate Franco's life.
Yeah, and if you look at it, I'm a lot younger, and I didn't get a chance to see Franco Harris play live. But when you look at that play, when you hear the way people spoke about him, when you see the impact that he had on the game, it's incredible. And it's a legacy, a Hall of Fame guy that just continues to carry on. And I think when you look at his life, and we know how good of a football player he was and how dominant he was out there, but the way everybody talks about him as a man and as a person, that's what's special. When you finish playing, you live a lot longer a life outside the NFL than when you were in it. And the way you impact people and the way you touch people go a lot longer than the Immaculate Reception, catching that first playoff touchdown and getting that win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So when I remember him and I think about him, I think of the words that people use to describe him and the feelings that they probably had when they got to be in his presence, and that's special. And that's what it means to be an NFL player, and that's what it means to be a role model and to touch people. So very sad to see him go, and just want to take this time to celebrate his life and to know how special that he was to that organization and to so many other people.
Very special. The news is jarring. The timing is chilling in this week, as Peter was talking about. This is an icon of Pittsburgh, an icon of professional football. You land in Pittsburgh, there's the statue. He is in many ways the face of the city of Pittsburgh, more so than many other athletes might be. Think of Dan Marino in Miami. It is that type of relationship. I love the Immaculate Reception in the sense that it keeps the young people involved in things that happened back then, and it's this timeless play. If I have any frustration with the Immaculate Reception, is that I don't want it misconstrued at all that Franco Harris was part of some one-hit wonder, or this was... Understand, wildly productive, consistent, tough runner. So much so that some history here, in the mid-'80s, we look back as the time when Walter Payton passed Jim Brown's rushing record, and that is this historic moment, and Walter Payton is a god in football. Franco was right there with him. He was going to pass Jim Brown's record, and they were right there together. The tide shifted on his career. He ends up going to Seattle and ends his career 192 yards short of Jim Brown's rushing record, which for years was immortal, less than 200 yards. A great, long-time, consistent, tough player. And I have a small personal note on Franco Harris that has always stuck with me. In the 90s, I went to college with Franco's son. We were in the same class in college. Showed up in 1997, and we're moving into the dorms with our parents. And I was a huge football fan, and I knew who Franco Harris was. And I see Franco Harris, like, down the quad, and it was outside of Butler Dining Hall, and I remember it vividly. And I'm saying, oh my God, I'm telling my dad, that's Franco Harris, and my dad's freaking out. As an 18-year-old who had not been around very many famous people, I walked right up to him, and I just said, "Are you Franco Harris?" He said, "Yes, I am." I said, "You made the Immaculate Reception." He says, "Yes, I did." And I said, "That's crazy. What was that like?" Like, just the worst, most obnoxious question ever. And immediately, without blinking, he says to me, "Well, you know, I was trying to make a play for my team, and I saw the ball, and I was able to get my hands down, and then once I got the ball, I just ran my butt off and got to the end zone." Like, the story he had told for years, and he was so patient and so kind. I got his autograph. This is me at 18 years old, and my reflection of him is that he was dealing with his family. It's talking about a story he had for years, and he was so gracious and so kind and so sweet, and one hell of a football player and one hell of a loss for all of pro football today.
As we mentioned, Saturday, 50th anniversary game between the Raiders and the Steelers of the Immaculate Reception, and Mike Tomlin's been asked a lot this week about Franco Harris and just what he's meant. And if you haven't seen it, there's a great clip from yesterday, head coach of the Steelers talking about what Jason just said, which is, "I didn't know him as a player." This is Mike Tomlin. "I knew him as a man and what he meant for the city and what he's meant." And Mike Tomlin's wife was on a board with Franco Harris, and he just knew him to his core and how impactful he was. And obviously that was ever present throughout his life, Franco Harris, because he was the 1976 Walter Payton Man of the Year, which is another conversation we've been having about how important that is for players and what that must mean to teams and cities. Another interesting note about Franco Harris, we were just talking about this in the makeup room, is that he has a fan base. Specifically, it's called Franco's Italian Army.
Yeah. Sure. That's huge.
And Frank Sinatra was a member, and there's a famous picture of Terry Bradshaw wearing a Franco's Italian Army hat, which is fantastic. And I think just to have that ever-worldly presence and to permeate your personality within a city is pretty cool.
Yeah, you get to Pittsburgh, you fly in, you get to that elevator in the airport, there's a statue of Franco Harris. And it is omnipresent. You walk in and say, "I'm in Pittsburgh." He is Pittsburgh, and he's Pennsylvania, and he's all of that. And he's the only Steeler to score a touchdown in every one of their Super Bowl wins in the 70s. Like, if you go back and go into the John Facenda, Sam Spence vault of NFL films, and you want to type in 1970s, Franco Harris is all over it. And yet, to your point, all of you guys, it didn't end in the 70s. He was a part of our lives in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, right up until today, where, we talk about Franco Harris as not only an NFL luminary, but as like a part of the fabric of the NFL and the Shield as a whole. I'm at a loss for words because he's always been a part of our lives, and we could always tend to have him on the show. And we're losing not only a friend, but a legend to the NFL this morning.
Absolutely. Again, AP Associated Press reporting that Franco Harris has passed away at the age of 72. Franco Harris, a four-time Super Bowl champion, the 1972 NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, the 1976 Walter Payton Man of the Year, a fantastic man, a great player. He will be remembered, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, a Pittsburgh legend, and just days before the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, one of the most iconic plays in NFL history, the cornerstone not only of that play, but all of those special Steelers teams of the 70s, has passed away. Franco Harris gone at the age of 72.